Welcome back to TechBrain YouTube channel. In today's video, I will walk you through how to fetch data from MongoDB in a FastAPI application instead of hard coding data. This is an essential skill if you're building more scalable and data-driven web application. We will be using PyMongo to interact with MongoDB and FastAPI to build the web application. Before we get started, make sure you have FastAPI and MongoDB installed on your machine. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more tech tutorial like this one. Alright, let's dive in step by step, starting with setting up our virtual environment and installing the necessary dependencies. The first step here, we are going to create a project folder and set up our virtual environment. So first, let's create a new folder to keep all project files organized. Open your terminal and run the following command to create a directory for your project. This will create a folder called MongoDB FastAPI project and navigate into it. Next, you will want to create and activate a virtual environment within this folder. This keeps your project's dependencies isolated from the rest of your system. Now run the command below for Mac OS user or Linux user to create and activate a virtual environment within your folder. Now activate the virtual environment. Now you will need to install PyMongo, the library that allows Python to communicate with MongoDB in the virtual environment. You have to run install PyMongo is a library for MongoDB interaction. And also, after creating and activating your virtual environment, then you now have to install your FastAPI. Coming to the FastAPI documentation here, copy this command and run it on your terminal. Now we will install the FastAPI. If you don't have MongoDB installed locally, you need to install it in your machine. We are not going to explain that in this video. I'm going to add a link in the description that is going to explain how to install MongoDB on your machine locally. So once MongoDB is installed, you can then start your service, which I said we won't explain that in this video. The next thing here is we need to prepare the data we'll be fetching in our FastAPI application. For this, we will use Mongo imports to load a list of African countries into MongoDB. Open your Visual Studio Code with the following content. Create a file named countries.json. Countries.json. Now to import this JSON data into MongoDB, we'll use the Mongo import command. Open a terminal and run the following command. Mongo import db Africa. This is the name of the database where we are storing the data. Then define the collection. Collection is just like a table where the country is going to be saved. This is the path to the JSON file we created. Then JSON array, which specify that our data is in an array of JSON objects. Then we import our data into MongoDB. You can see connected to the localhost, 10 documents imported successfully, 0 documents failed to import. Now that we've successfully imported the data, let's move on to the Python code. First, let's create a data.py file where we will write the logic for fetching data from MongoDB. Now we have the file here. Now let's write logic importing by Mongo from Mongo client. And we import the random. Now we will build our FastAPI app in a file named main.py, creating another file main.py into the file. This app we'll use the function we just created to fetch data from MongoDB and expose them as API endpoints. So here's the code for the main.py. So we're going to import FastAPI. And the exception. Create a FastAPI instance. Once the code is ready, you can start your FastAPI app using the following command. After that, your FastAPI application will be running locally. You can now open your browser or use an API testing tool like Postman to test the endpoints. So here's the endpoint to fetch random countries. You can check your API docs by Swagger UI using this URL. Then here's your API. To get a random country, you can test it out here. Execute this. You can see the countries here. You can also get a specific country here. Searching. Okay, you can see the response. Alright, and that's it. In this tutorial, you've learned how to set up a virtual environment and install necessary dependencies. You've learned how to import data from MongoDB using Mongo import, write Python code to fetch that data from MongoDB. You've learned how to build a FastAPI application to expose the data as RESTful API endpoints. Now, instead of coding data in your application, you can fetch it dynamically from MongoDB and make your application more flexible and scalable. If you found this video helpful, Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also drop your questions in the comments and I will be happy to help you out. See you in the next video.